Welcome to Running in the 70s, where we interview, meet, and get to know athletes of all kind who were running in the 70s. I'm your host, Matthew Kleinowski. Welcome back to part 2 with Tracy Sundlun. We'll pick it up at the end of episode 1, talk about a few more things, including the World Road Racing Championships coming up September, and also we'll go back to the origin story of the high school indoor national championships that he got started. Today we're in San Diego, California, with a guy who is a visionary in the sport. He's created a lot of things. He's changed the sport. He's still active, everything running. Today, welcome on the podcast, Tracy Sundlun. Hi, Tracy.
How are you?
Before we tackle the money in the latter part of the 70s, 1976, famously among the U.S. running community, drug use by the men's marathon runner. What about drug use? When did that become apparent to you? What was going on? You're with the athletes then.
Steroids were an accepted element in the throwing community.
Right.
And virtually all of the better ones were doing it, legal or not. I think I was probably quite naive until I began to see it a little bit. It wasn't in my world. I wasn't dealing with world-class throwers at the time. It really hadn't moved into the sprinting until we saw. What we did see was the East German swimmers. One of the crimes always strikes out at me is Shirley Babashaw. She got, I believe, 6 silver medals in the 6 games. And she was the one U.S. swimmer that said, hey, this is what's going on. This isn't fair. And she got absolutely shunned and pillared for speaking out. And that was bad sportsmanship. All those medals, all that notoriety, what did she wind up doing in life? She delivered the mail. She was a U.S. postal person. No, did she get the acclaim that Mark Spitz and the other superstars from then got? No. Just because she pointed out the realities which decades later everybody knows, everybody's afraid of.
But the impact in the U.S., let's talk about that for with shorter winning the marathon, the distance running. Race walking has never been a sport that the U.S. has excelled at.
We do have a couple of medals, Ron Laird.
Yeah.
No, yeah. You're 100% right. And I do put on the last 4 Olympic race walk trials, 5 altogether. And I put on the national championships each year for the longer distance. They deserve to have a properly presented event. We have a natural selection system in this country based upon strong scholastic participation numbers-wise. Where we have strong scholastic numbers, sport by sport, city by city, state by state, we have strong national, international teams. Where we have weak numbers in the scholastic programs, we have weak or non-existent national teams. If you think about it, there's no more than 17, 18 sports that are contested in high school, and some aren't Olympic sports like football. 22, 23 at the college level, thereabouts. There are, 45 Olympic sports? So they have to survive off of a club system. And the club system is like what women's sports were pre-Title IX. Somebody has to say, Mommy, I want to do that. Then Mommy has to find a place for them to do that. Then they go pay to do that. And then they actually get to do that. and they find out if they actually like it and are good at it. In a school system, oh, I'd like to try that. They get to go do it for free. They find out if they're any good at it. It's sitting right there. And if they don't like it or they're not good at it, they try something else for free. So, in my opinion, if you look at virtually all race walkers for decades, they came out of places where there was either a high school program in New York or a couple college programs in the NAIA. So the pool was so much less. The athletic pool was so much less. In New York, I created something called the New York Amateur Sports Alliance. It's a collection of all the local governing bodies. And we help put on some sports in schools at the elementary and junior high school level. When there wasn't any, essentially the teachers' unions wouldn't complain about your taking away a job from a school coach or something. So we could do what we wanted. And I had race walking in it. Didn't intend to at the start. In the beginning, I just had up to the mile and had the long jump, high jump, shot put or something. But shoot, so many of my 800-meter kids and milers were wanting walking. All right, let's have the walk. We introduced it in a non-prejudiced way. They all got points and they all got cheered for by their teammates. It turned out to be the second most popular event in the program behind the 200. We had one kid that started there, became a national champion. But the point of all the track and field events, it's one that's not included in our school program, collegiate program. For it to ultimately get where it needs to go, it's important to get there. Now, another thing that has just happened, the international distances for years were 50 kilometers and 20 kilometers. Who the hell knows what 50 kilometers is or 20 kilometers? And then the IOC shortened it from 50 to 35 because of the time length, the length of time they were out there. Who even better knows what a 35 kilometer is? So nobody could ever know just how remarkable the athletes were. They just looked funny doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if instead of telling you that, oh, they ran a 117 or walked a 117 20K, they walked a 120 half marathon, somebody say, oh my God, are you kidding?
Yeah. Let me
Or
think, but
instead of a 4 hour or a 3:30 50K, they broke 3 hours with 5 miles to go in a marathon. No, it was. So now they've changed the distances. And I've been pushing for it. Others had too. To the next Olympics will be a half marathon and a marathon distance.
Really, for the race
So,
one?
yes. So we'll know how good they are. I used to get some trinkets from the local Olympic training center here and give them to everybody who beat the first walker in our Carlsbad 5,000 and some other events. And out of 3,000 people, like 200 would get a trinket. No, we have to be able to show what great athletes they are. And from a Scholastic standpoint, it is a whole lot easier to coach race walking than it is to triple jump or the pole vault or the javelin or some of the other events.
Yeah, you've had a big impact on a lot of things. And apart from Title IX, you talked about the changes in the Olympics. Another one was the inclusion of the women's events at longer distances when we first only had the 800 meters. What about the changes there that you saw and had a role in?
You probably don't even know this. Let's see. You can lose track of. Let's see. Yes, it was. That was 84.
84
No,
marathons.
okay. No, all right. So in the 80 trials, all right.
Yeah, this is where you got the changes. Yeah.
So one of the rules back then, there was a discussion about how do we get the 5,000 and the 10,000 and the marathon. And ultimately, and other events that are in the games for men, but weren't in for women: triple jump, pole vault. And one by one, they came in. But one of the big keys was it had to be contested in national championships before it could be in an international championship and on a big stage. So here, all of a sudden, we've got the 1980 Olympic trials, which guys aren't going anywhere except to Washington, D.C. I was one of those. We talked about putting on some exhibition women's events at Olympic distances that didn't exist. 10,000, 5,000, 400 hurdles. The marathon, the standards were being met through the Avon series and Catherine Switcher's efforts there and others. So I convinced it wasn't taking a lot of convincing. Basically asked if we could put on those events at Nike, I think, first asked if they could have the 10,000 and would help fund the 10,000 at the trials there. And I came around and said we should have the 5,000 too and the 400 hurdles. And the meet director said, okay.
Well, who controlled it? The USOC, the ATM? Who?
I think it was with the Athletics Congress or whatever it was in 80. May have still been the AAU, I'm not sure. But essentially, they were an exhibition event on the big stage. I got Gill to sponsor the hurdles. They didn't have Gill hurdles there. So we had a whole separate set of hurdles. It got put on the track for the women's 400 hurdles. And then we're taking off.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Yeah.
And we got money. I can't remember where I got it all. So we did that. And then we did the race walk for women at the Olympic trials in 84. I had to look over there to remember what year. Yeah. Because the women's walk wasn't in there either.
Took a while for the 10K to be accepted by the Olympics. 84 got the marathon. They took out the 3K and replaced it with the 5K, maybe in 88. Was it that soon?
Sure. We did get the 400 hurdles in 84, I believe. In fact, I'm 99 point. I think Noel El-Mowatki won, and I think our girl King was second. Hold on. Results: women's 400-meter hurdles, 1984 Olympic Games. God, sometimes I'm actually good.
Yeah, look at that. You and the internet.
Noel El-Mowatki from Iowa State, from Morocco, won. Judith Lynn Brown, who now is King, the United States, was silver, and bronze was Cristina Caru of Romania. But we met these different qualifications. The key was, what are the holes you have to fill? You fill them, all right?
Yeah.
And if it's conducted internationally, it's conducted in national championships, those were the requirements. So we did that.
Let's look at money and the impact there kind of in the late 70s and early 80s. And there's stories of some of the people competing at the highest levels, sleeping in a closet or on a couch because they had no funding. Did that impact your athletes? And certainly with the Cascade runoff, it was an organized event. You had Nike, you had the athletes binding together. What was your take on it, and how critical was it, and why that? So I always wonder about the timing. Why didn't it happen 6 years earlier? Why didn't that get then and not 5 years later?
Here, let's give you two pieces. You ask about the effects of money. So it was an under the table world for many years. I can't remember whether it was 77 or 78. I used to take my athlete, people I coached, to Europe in the summer. So I think it was 77 because some of them didn't come back until went off to the World Cup. No, they were like training races, but they'd make money everywhere, either from a prize money or appearance money. And you lined up after the meet and got your cash as the manager. I was one of the first managers out there. And you wondered why Lasse Viren ran so much. He got a share of the gate. We were just out there getting our 500 or $300 for doing whatever. No, he drove up with a truck in Scandinavia. But we ran that summer 30 some odd, let's see.
Wow.
In 68 days, we did about 34 meets in 32 cities or something. We come back to Stockholm and leave everything, all the prizes, etc., in a public locker in the train station. Now it's time to go home. A couple of guys are going off to Stuttgart, the other World Cup team. And I've got 17 bags of awards, clothes, and cash with the 4 or 5 other guys that are on the team. And get on the plane, go back to LA. I said, holy shit, how are we going to get through it? I said, all right, everybody put on a USC jacket because all of them, the group that I had there was all USC. Stay right behind me. And we're walking down with all our bags, pushing up the USC logo to see. I was just waiting for one of the customs guys to catch our eye, catch his eye. I saw it. Chat him up, tell him everything that was going on, introduce him to the guys, blah, 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 blah. Anything to declare? Nope, just a bunch of prizes, from all these track meets. Hey, great, welcome home.
Right.
I had almost $150,000 in cash. But that was the world back then.
That's great.
You mentioned Cascade, and clearly Cascade was absolutely critical for no other reason because a whole bunch of the world's more well-known athletes participated, and it was backed by Nike. But the first one, the critical meet, actually took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And they've got this section up there. Hold on. September 21, 1980. So the previous fall, it was the Jordache Atlantic City Marathon. My Warren Street team, we were just over and we ran a cross-country race on Saturday and got our asses handed to us. And then some of the folks there said, hey, is that crying our beer? Let's go over, let's run in Atlantic City. They're giving away money. What the hell? So off we went. I think they were giving, well, $15,000 for first. The point is, they were told they were all going to get banned.
All right.
This was illegal. You couldn't do this. Warren Street's slogan was, they said, sit down. I stood up. It was with Warren Street Social and Athletic Club. Tom Fleming ran in the race. I think he dropped out. He was the only really famous runner, I recall. And we won like a third of the money. And was slow. The women's winner was 3:04. My guys finished 4th and 5th, running 3:0 over 3 hours, 3:04, 3:05. And people went a bit crazy. They tried to ban them and the like. And they just thought this was going to be an easy. Olin Castle was the head of the AAU at the time. And they thought it would just sort of be an easy piece. You go in front of the registration committee and they get disqualified. Or they actually didn't, they disqualified and said, no, we have to have a hearing. Okay, went to the hearing. Every one of our people had a lawyer. I had a leading distance runner, a guy named Steve Floto, there to speak and say, "What do you mean? These kids hardly made any money. This is what I make." And we also had Alan Helfrich. That name is not familiar, but he won an Olympic gold medal in 28 and an Olympic silver. He won a couple of Olympic medals. And back then, the AAU paid him to run against Pablo Normie in Yankee Stadium.
Oh my gosh.
Shit. But they thought this was going to be a half hour, an hour registration meeting. We show up with all of this. And the first question was to a woman who eventually I married. "And what is your name for the record?" And she said, "Do you want the whole name?" "Well, of course." And her lawyer said, "Oh boy, here we go." Isabel's full name on her birth certificate: Sarah Hamilton Isabella Martha Charlotte Hagar Vanessa Dinah Victoria Carmichael. That is how this hearing started.
Huh?
The hearing went on for 6 months. They had to keep redoing it. The point is, in the end, Olin essentially got to the committee members and made them all say no, they had to be bounced. They were suspended. And I said, "Okay, that's it. This is never happening again. I'm going to be the president, and we're never going to suspend another athlete." I said to the registration committee, "I will not let you resign, but I will never let you meet." During that period of time while the whole thing was going on, they had the New York Marathon. They couldn't tell them not to run. They were still. So we had 2 teams entered, an A and a B team. The A team was our best that were available. The B team was the potentially suspended athletes and their lawyers. And they went 1-2 in the team competition.
Was Fred LeBeau directing the race then? What was the race director's attitude towards them entering? Do you
Oh,
remember it?
fine. No, no,
He
no.
said, "Go do what you want." Okay.
Fred and Alan, all good. Wonderful, wonderful. But that's how we decided to go run for money. It was that spur of the moment thing. Again, in the end, it was right. Yes, it became a big deal. And if more money was above the table, even today, the public would see our sport in a different way.
Right.
But I still have the canceled checks up there on the wall.
Great. Yeah. Well, you did cash them.
You're damn straight.
Talking with you, Tracy, so many of these things seem to you non-remarkable. They seem that they were each small steps. They're revolutionary, and everyone does call you a visionary for some of the things that you see. I don't know if you see them clearly, if you see them early, or you're just determined to see them through. But let's talk about the rock and roll series. How did that come? What's the origin of it? The origin stories of these things are always fascinating.
Tim Murphy and Elite Racing, he was putting on the Carlsbad 5000, which really was the original and most visible non-marathon road race. He started in 86. And he did it differently. Whereas in most road races, the gun goes off, the fast guys go first, the slow guys go last. And by the time slow guys finish, the fast guys have gone home. And yet the fans of the fast guys are the slow guys. And so his thought was, no, we'll have a series of people's races. Then we'll have this huge party at the finish. And then we'll run the world's best athlete in the middle of this party on a spectator-friendly course. So essentially created spectator running. and it was riveting. We have 16 world records there, all the best athletes in the world. The event was timed, so it was a week or 2 weeks after the World Cross Country Championships. We used to pick up the athletes there and bring them here, or they did until I became involved. And then in the mid-90s, I started to work with him from New York. He was impressed with all of our kids' things through the Metropolitan Athletics Congress. So we just began to collaborate. I tried to bring in some sponsorships from New York out here. But here we had spectator running, and everybody says, man, you got to put on a marathon and do the same thing. Oh, yeah, that'll work really well. So all the people's races, they'll go off, they'll run, they'll be finished in 6 hours or so. They're going to be lying around at the end dead. And then we're going to run the world's best for 2 hours in the middle of this. No, I don't think that will work the same way. But how do we do something special? And then we had the further the problem. There hadn't been a new major marathon 13 years at the time, only since 84. What we're cooking this thing up, or 85 or 87. What the hell? The LA Marathon. All right. And Boston was started at noon on a holiday. New York was starting at 11. How the hell are we're going to have to start at dark 30. How are we going to get somebody to come out and watch our race? Maybe they won't come out to watch people run, but maybe they come out to watch music, listen to music. We'll run this thing through 26 little mini concerts. Remember, we hadn't created half marathon yet. Half marathon was just a training race for a marathon, a local training race, right? We can have 26 little concerts. And then we'll run right through. And then, we'll have the mile markers, and we'll have water stations. Then we'll get cheerleaders too. We'll put them every quarter mile. Nothing will be in the same space. So we'll create our own crowd. Okay. What sort of music? Classical? No. Country? Could be. Yeah, that'd be good. Jazz? No. Rock and roll? The right one? That'd be good. Well, what do we call it? Now, every major race in the world was named after the city that they lived in. It was being conducted. But there already was a San Diego Marathon. Happened to be in Carlsbad, but then the people that actually owned the name offered it to us. But we were trying to put on a world-class deal. We couldn't go in with a sullied name. And Tim said, no, let's call it the Rock and Roll Marathon. And all of it, no way. What a stupid, dorky name. You can't do that. Why not? You can't. Terrible. We had 3 separate meetings of the staff. And we finally just gave up. And thank freaking God. Prior to rock and roll, the largest percentage of women in any marathon was 23%. The New York Marathon. Most road races were 10 to 15%. Our first 30 entries came from 17 states and 2 countries, and were 50-50 men and women. Essentially, it maintained that sort of demographic from then on. And demographically, they were slightly older, they were slightly slower, they were slightly wealthier, they were slightly more educated. And it was all because of the rock and roll image.
So what has changed then since 27 years of it in terms of the logistics? I know a lot of smaller races are priced out by the cost of security. Were the bands paid? The costs? How did all that?
Everybody's paid. Maybe not much, but they're all paid. No, there had always been some music on the courses. Hell, they've been playing Rocky over and over outside of Bishop Laughlin High School on the New York City Marathon course in Brooklyn forever.
Yeah, the Jacksonville 50 has bands. I ran
Well,
in
they,
that.
they all do now,
Yeah,
but we were the first ones to sell it. We were also the first ones to sell charity.
right.
I think there's a resurgence of running right now. It's getting older. Got to get the young ones involved. I haven't been as intimately involved on a day-to-day basis as I was when they're putting on races every weekend. But I think the rules of creating special events successfully haven't changed. Most people just try and avoid it. You create special events and special anything with a team of people who are passionate about the space that they're in and are subject matter experts, and the money will follow. You
Optimistic.
manage,
Do you
hold
need
on,
to be practical or optimistic?
let me
What?
finish. You manage to the bottom line with a group of people who may be talented, but are not necessarily passionate about that space or are subject matter experts in that space, and you time your demise to mediocrity. Also, perhaps our most important business key to success was in any business, you never budget to break even in year one. What is it? You try and expect to lose X dollars in year one. You hope to break even as a standalone year in year three and make X dollars in year three and then be at ground zero. That's what every hot dog stand does. That's what all of, but no road race had ever done that. They'd say, how many runners can I get? Oh, 2,000. What's a fee? $20, 40,000. What's the sponsorship? Well, I can get 10,000. So I got a $50,000 budget, but then I can't spend any of it until I begin to get the money in. We got investors and we went after it. I think, and you're only as good as an event as your weakest link. If you have a bad course, you have a bad weather, you have a bad expo, you have a bad awards, you have a bad shirt, whatever it is, that's the thing. You can't have a bad elite field either. Think about the Marine Corps Marathon. Is that a great event or what? Does anybody ever know about it?
No, it's just a Washington, D.C. event, basically. Yeah.
Because they have no pros. They have nothing. They've never had prize money. They've never done that. They don't get press. Hell, they don't even get it in their own sports pages. No. So how are we addressing it? You're only as good as your weakest link, too. And so when we start creating those events, we have to think.
Let me ask you that question then. This team, if they have a personality, practicality, optimism, boldness, what was the characteristics of your team there through the years of getting rock and roll, through that start of a different approach financially and everything else, culturally?
Well, Tim's personality, I mean, it never occurred to any of us that we wouldn't be successful. Now, we only started to create one event. Now, I was saying, there's only one person in that. It's not true. So Steve Scott, the miler, had been very involved with elite racing forever. He's the one that really created the Carlsbad 5000 with Tim. We came up with this idea, and I was going out selling shares, stock. He came in and said, hey, guys, I'm going to do everything I can for you. But if you think I'm taking stock, you're freaking nuts. This is the stupidest idea that you guys have ever had. Just pay me and we'll be happy. Eventually we gave him stock too. But it didn't dawn on us that we would fail. And Tim was the best marketer. Other than Fred Lebo, Tim Murphy was the best marketer to the retail runner ever in history. 5,000, first 5,000. First, we launched the first destination half marathon. But you can't cut corners, and you got to keep selling, and you got to make it all individual. It can be, to some degree, cookie cutter.
It's great, these backgrounds and your reminisces on it. It's a lot of neat insights. And you've gone coast to coast, from the East Coast, so much time in New York, and on the West Coast. What about your time in Colorado? You were there in the late 70s?
I was there 78, 79.
That's another right place, right time, maybe. Colorado and a key place. There were I know a lot. I know personally a lot of people who went out to live in Boulder at that time and be part of that community was out there. And of course, Mary Decker showed up. What were you doing out there when you went there? Was it a short term gig in your mind? What were you?
No, actually, I'd known Mary since she was 12 as a Blue Angel out here with my La Jolla Track Club Wilch Wonder Woman.
Ah,
Actually, when the job became open there, we had the outdoor nationals, the U at UCLA, the party at my house, and she says, "You ought to apply for the job." Oh, come on, Colorado. I'm not. It's cold in Colorado. How do we do this? And she says, "No, it's not cold." Yes, it's cold. Look, no, that's the rest part. That's the other part of Colorado. Boulder's protected by the Flatiron. It's not like the rest of Colorado. I believed her. Let me tell you, I was really cold. It was just after Title IX. They really didn't understand what that meant or what championship track and field meant. We had just won our second NCAA at NSC. I'm sure that was part of the attraction. I remember I brought one of my Swedish Olympians there with me. She'd been training in California, and that is still there. But I remember trying to think of all the trouble I got into at different times there. But one of them, I got called in by the women's athletic director. I was hired by the men's athletic director, who was the overall athletic director. He says, "Tracy, you can't take that many people to a cross country meet." "What do you mean?" "You took 15 girls to the race last weekend in Vail." "Yeah." "They only score 7." "Yeah." "So you can't take any more than 7. That's a team." I says, "No, that's not how it works." "Well, of course that's how it works." I said, "No." And I tried to explain. "How many did the men take?" 28. "Oh, I think I was fired 4 times and rehired 3 times, each time with a slight increase."
ah, ah.
No,
Right.
it was a remarkable experience.
Well, there were other people out there in that period. Rich Castro.
So Rich was the coach before
Boulder.
I was there, and he involved with the recreation department and other parts of the school, and he's still there.
And in another part of Colorado, Joe Behill was coaching at Adams. Was that then?
I'm not sure. Oh, wait, let me tell you another fun story
Cool.
that just showed the initial disconnect. I thought I was a pretty big deal coming from USC. We won this and won that, blah, blah, blah. Everybody thought I came from the University of Southern Colorado.
Oh no. They didn't have the red and gold jacket and
No, we brought a work ethic there. And I still have great affection for a bunch of the athletes that were there and the institution. No, it's very cool. But from there, I went to New York to do television for the 1980 Olympics. And then there weren't any. And the other things that I learned at Colorado. Yeah, I had some good athletes. We had done well individually, mostly on the shorter ends, but I never coached at altitude. So, I'm up there, I'm trying to learn, I'm listening to everybody. One of the things that we did do from a female standpoint, I wanted them to believe in themselves, think big. Fine. So Mary was there, but all the others didn't have a strong self opinion.
Mhm.
I reached into that running community locally and asked the guys to come run with the girls. Nobody was doing that. They were different. There's the college over here and the girls here, and there's the Frank Shorters and the studs over there. Rick Rojas ran with the girls all the time on their other runs.
Mhm.
Again, making them feel straight, not setting any limits on themselves. And a young girl named Dana Slater who beat Mary. They were very shocked. I came back in the spring and I go out to the track. We only had an indoor track. They had an outdoor track that was a road somewhere else. I wouldn't let people run on it. It really was concrete. And there's security or some coach at the door of the indoor track. I'm sorry, it's closed for football practice. What do you mean it's closed for football practice? It's track season. Well, we're starting spring ball. We'll go outside. Says, I'm the track coach. Yeah, we know who you are. Let's track practice. And by the way, we're a lot better than you. So I went and saw the new head coach. Oh, tell me who he was. He had been in Oklahoma and then he went to the Patriots and we hired him
Right.
from the Patriots. He was very good. Chuck Fairbanks. Oh,
Okay.
so Chuck
Yes.
Fairbanks. And I
Mhm.
went and saw him and I explained, this is where we're at, blah, blah, blah. I need the indoor facility. You can do the shout tours. I need it this times a day, blah, blah, blah. He said, okay, you got it.
Well,
This is all coming back. Part of my deal in going to Colorado with Eddie Crowder was that they would build us a new outdoor track. When they got Chuck Fairbanks, the Patriots sued them for interference. And the payoff was 250 grand by track. So we agreed to part ways.
okay. What do you have your hands in now? What are you hands on with organizing all these legacy of things you've left created?
The thing that's consuming me to the nth degree right now is the World Road Running Championships. We're bringing to San Diego next September.
So that's 9 months away.
1
And
mile, 5K, half marathon, mass
uh,
race as well.
and what's involved in getting that to happen 9 months from now? What are the hurdles or what's different now than when you started other?
Hey, I think there's a lot of things different. The world is different. We're trying to explain to what do you mean I can run the world championship? I'm old. I'm slow. I'm overweight. I can't qualify for Boston. How can I run the world championship? everybody can run the world championship. I've got a group of people, virtually all of them we've worked together before, but we're working as independent contractors. So yes, in this new Zoom world, that will work, but it's difficult. We're behind on the marketing with the only person that was involved with us who had not been part of one of our teams before was the CMO. He did a very nice job helping us get the bid and he's really good in the TV side of things, but then he quit. And so we're way behind on the marketing stuff. It's an $8 million event. I expect to lose money on it. That's okay. I just won't compromise what we can do and how we can do something special for the sport, for San Diego, for the participants.
You've done a lot of things special for a lot of the people that you've interacted with over the years, from elite athletes down to, as you say, kids and people who didn't have. You've explained nicely how change people's views of themselves and different ways to look at success. It's really nice talking with you, Tracy, and to see your easygoing, smiling through your memories. I know some, especially the 76 thing, still emotionally powerful to you. This
In many ways, they're all emotionally powerful. My God, I'm in touch with our Sports International girls, my DC Strider guys. One of my DC Strider high school guys was just elected chairman of men's track and field for USA Track and Field with Mackenzie. No, there's so many wonderful memories. Before we leave Colorado, I got to tell you one of my learning experiences. So we've been in altitude a while. I think I'm figuring this thing out. Off we go to the Air Force Academy to run a cross-country race. We're in Boulder. It's a mile up in the air. I set up this race plan. Who knew there was a difference between 5,200 and 7,700 feet? You thought I had damn near killed these girls. Mary Decker's lying on the ground. The greatest athlete that's ever run. Oh my God, what have I done? No. We learned some things. It's been a wonderful journey.
I'm sure we could talk a lot longer, and maybe we'll revisit with you closer to the World Road Racing Championships just for check-in a few months. I'm sure you're going to be even more busy, but it's been great talking with you and hearing some of these stories over this span of years. It's wonderful to see. You don't seem impressed by much that you've done.
I candidly not. I never did it. I never thought about them from those perspectives. I wasn't involved thinking about them when it was going on from the outside. All we want to do is create something special for the participants. It warms the cockles of my heart when people say nice things, say positive things. But I promise you that everybody I've come across has given me more than I've given them in my mind.
That's a great attitude that you have. I think we all need to thank you. People who haven't individually interacted with you certainly have gotten a lot of benefit about all the things you've created, the force and attitude and effort.
Hell, we didn't even talk about the National Scholastic,
the high school championship. Yeah. How radical an idea was that?
It was a very radical idea. It didn't seem that radical at first. Here I'm in New York. I'm in charge of running local association of AAU, or at that time it was Athletics Congress. And I got all my high school kids and I'm putting on meets for them all the time. and I'd been a college coach. I knew that you got your opportunities collegiately. Everything was decided back then by April 1, based on what you did as a junior outdoors and as a senior indoors. Yet nobody had any idea that when they're running in the armory at that time, they're running on a flat urine-soaked wood floor. And breaking 50 there was like a national team member. In fact, Clyde McPherson held the record at 48.6. And yet the same day, they're running outdoors at UCLA. What does somebody know? How do they pick them? I got to protect my kids. And then you also have all these club kids. If you get down to it, we look at percentages. Back then, about only 35% of the schools had girls teams and 65% had boys teams. There are a lot of kids that are in clubs that weren't appearing in high school stuff. How do I make sure that my kids get the best opportunity? So let's put them on a great track at the end of the indoor season and make sure that the college coaches are there. So what we did, we put them on a meet. They all have to do with timing. The week after the indoor high school state meets all took place. This one would be federations sponsored so that they, in most cases, they would be allowed to compete. Club kids welcome. I brought 5 studs from around the country that every college coach was chasing. That included Arnold Campbell throwing 70-plus feet in the shot, Leslie Maxey, who made the Olympic team, and did she make it in high school? Almost made it in high school. 400 hurdles. Lisa Bernhagen, high jumper, made the Olympic team. There are a couple of it. The largest number of states ever to participate in a high school meet at that time, I think it'd been 11. You remember back then, in many cases, your championships, there was a boys and a girls championship. They didn't compete together. So now they're all going to be in the same place. In that first year, we had kids from 39 states, winners from 16, and people went crazy. Dennis Mitchell, did he win that first? Yeah. Dennis Mitchell won the 300. I had a deaf kid, long jump superstar from Las Vegas that we brought in that was a sprinter. But again, these were all stories.
So it was a roaring success the first year.
It was out of the blocks. It was a roaring success that only grew. Now, fact is, ultimately, we had to go to 19 state legislatures and governors to overrule their high school federation. You remember Randy Barnes? He was a world record holder in the shot put.
Yeah.
We couldn't give him his awards. So they gave it to him when he was graduating with his diploma.
Wow. The mind-boggling administrative hurdles that get put in your way of just, running a big.
You can look at one point, Missouri, certain states were more obstinate than others. Missouri's had a very good history for years, and now they don't. They've been so reticent to let their kids compete.
Can you explain in a sentence what somebody's thinking that does that?
It could have changed in the last few years because I'm not uniquely involved in the same way, because they're afraid of national championships.
Okay.
But I'm going to forget the exact numbers, but they're pretty staggering, and yet I could pull them up. If you give me a minute, I can try. You'll find them interesting. Give me a second. All right. Just look at the Olympics. All right. NSFF alumni out of our national championships, okay, or our various events that we put on. We've had 377 male and 369 female Olympic alumni. Or, excuse me, that's actually, without repeaters, there are 477 boys and girls from 42 countries. Yes, a lot of people in this country.
Wow.
Made 746 Olympic teams, winning 47 bronze, 52 silver, and 94 gold medals. Or in simple numbers, where is that? That's 193 medals.
Yes.
Yet less than half of those Olympians and Olympic medalists were on the podium in our high school championships.
Wow. Yeah.
The average age of my Olympic team that I was the head manager for the U.S. team in 2016, the average age was 29.4 or 29.6. It takes a long time to mature and to grow. All of these things that we do athletically are just part of a learning process. And we have to just keep giving kids an opportunity, giving people an opportunity to keep at it. Don't say no. I once gave a clinic. We had Mem Kapleski, Frank Shorter, Rod Dixon, and Jim Ryan. I don't know, 500,000 people listening to every word. And all of a sudden, Frank jumps up. Why are you all listening to us? Stunned silence. Do you realize that collectively, we haven't even won 25% of our races? Shit, in some sports, we wouldn't even be in the Hall of Fame. Not even an all-star. So no, there's this remarkable process. That's why it's important that we send kids on junior teams. They grow up. And even if they say they don't become an Olympian, maybe that was the highlight of their life and it changed their life. No, there's so much there.
So it's an enormous contribution and a lot of lives touched. So I hope you do get a lot of opportunities for people to, they like what you've done and how you affected them.
I'd better, because how many hours have we been on here and I haven't done a gosh darn thing today that I'm supposed to do?
Yeah, I appreciate all your time. I'll cut this into a few episodes. Anyhow, Jackie Selcher's obviously a big fan of yours. And she's been trying.
She's been snowed. Okay.
That's great. Thank you very much, Tracy.
No, thank you for listening.
Oh, it was a pleasure. It was such a pleasure. You're fun. You have a great attitude, and you come through so genuine. And
been blessed, baby.
Thank you very much. So long.
Talk to you. Bye.
Bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed another episode. Do you have someone you'd like to hear interviewed on the podcast? You can leave a comment on the YouTube channel or on the website, running70s.com. That's running70s.com. Let me know what you think of the episodes and anyone, including yourself, you'd like to hear interviewed. I hope you enjoyed another episode of Running in the 70s. Voices, stories, and memories of athletes who were running in the 70s. Until next time, wherever you are, keep looking forward and don't forget to look back.